Hey guys, this is Cody, and I'm back here once again to do another review for another one of my favorite family films. And this movie is definitely one of my all-time favorites. It's in my top 10 favorite movies of all time. I've loved this movie ever since I was in 7th grade. In my 7th grade English class, we actually read the book that this movie is based off of. And the book is definitely my favorite my young adult novel, and the movie is definitely one of my favorite movies of all time. But the movie I'm going to be talking about was released in 1983 and is directed by Francis Ford Coppola, and it is The Outsiders. Now I know I've talked about this movie a lot on my channel before. I even did a review for it over a year ago, but I was never too satisfied with my older reviews, so I thought I would redo it. So yeah, The Outsiders basically follows a young boy named Ponyboy, who is played by C. Thomas Howell. And he is actually part of a large group of young teenagers known as the Greasers. And the Greasers are basically the poor kids of the neighborhood. You know, they live in low down, run down houses. They usually wear jeans and jean jackets, and their hair is covered in grease, and they really don't get as much respect because they're considered, low class, run down, kind of, sort of like street rats, pretty much. But Ponyboy, he lives with his two older brothers, Daryl, who is played by Patrick Swayze, rest in peace, and Soda Pop, who is played by Rob Lowe. And they basically live together in their house. You find out later that Ponyboy's parents had actually died in a car accident. So basically Daryl, who is pretty much just taking care of, Soda Pop and Ponyboy. But like I said, they're a part of a large group of teenagers called the Greasers, and they're all very close. They're all pretty much best friends, and they look after each other. They stick up for each other, and they're basically just one sort of family in a way. Some of their best friends include Two-Bit, who is played by Emilio Estevez, Steve, who is played by Tom Cruise, and another character named Dallas, who is played by Matt Dillon. And Dallas is kind of the tougher one of the group. He's the meaner one. The way that Ponyboy describes him in the book is, he's uglier, meaner. He's done some time in jail, and he's kind of, he's the ruder character, but they still look at him as a friend, and they all stick together as just one core group. There's also another group of young adults called the Socials, or as abbreviated in the movie and the book, Socias. And the Socias are pretty much the rich kids. They wear nice clothes, they drive around in nice cars, they're popular at school, and they basically, the most fun thing that they do is that they just enjoy beating up on the Greasers and treating them like trash, and they're spoiled rich kids, and that's pretty much what they enjoy doing. But Ponyboy, he really enjoys watching movies and reading. You find that out at the very beginning of the story, when he's actually, at the beginning of the story, he's walking away out of a movie theater, and he had just been watching a movie about Paul Newman, and while he's walking out, he ends up getting jumped by a car full of Socias, and of course the rest of the Greasers have to come up and save him. And that's when you sort of get a feel on the relationship between Ponyboy and his two brothers. Daryl begins giving him a hard time. He doesn't understand why Ponyboy enjoys watching movies or reading a lot. He thinks that Ponyboy should be focusing completely on school and focusing on a way to get him into college. And Daryl really gets on to him about that and gives him a hard time. Soda Pop, he's fine with Ponyboy doing whatever he wants to do, and he thinks that Daryl is too hard on him. But of course, now that their parents are dead, Daryl pretty much just has to take care of him and Soda Pop, and also pay most of the bills. Soda Pop also has a job, but you can really tell Daryl, he pretty much just has a lot of stress and a lot of worries on his mind, and he worries a lot about Ponyboy, and he loves him, and doesn't want to get hurt. Of course, Ponyboy just thinks that Daryl's just being a jerk, and their relationship is not that great at the beginning of the story. But yeah, as the story goes on, you learn more about the characters. You also learn about Ponyboy's best friend named Johnny Cade, who is played by Ralph Macchio. You guys may recognize him from The Karate Kid. And Johnny, he's older than Ponyboy, but he's still sort of the kid of the bunch. He's really, really timid. He's really scared. I think Ponyboy describes him as a lost kitten in a way. And he really is. He's just a really scared. He's a scared kid. Dark black hair. He's really worried about a lot of things. His parents are both drunks and they fight all the time. So he really doesn't stay at home a lot. He's mostly just staying at other friends' houses, or basically just staying, just alone. He's kind of homeless in a sort of way, even though he has a place to go back to. He just doesn't want to. But Johnny's there, and he, like I said, he's really close to Ponyboy. He's also really close to Dallas for some reason. Dallas really cares about him, and it's funny because Dallas doesn't really care about anybody. He's really hard. His parents are gone in some way. He talks a bit about his dad, and about his dad doesn't care about him. But the only person that Dallas really cares about is Johnny, and Johnny sort of idolizes Dallas. He worships the ground Dallas walks on in a way, so you can tell that they're pretty close. But as the story goes on, Ponyboy, Johnny, and Dallas, they go to a movie theater, and while they're there, they run into two they run into two girlfriends of two Socs named. One of them's name is Cherry, who is played by Diane Lane, who is a huge star now, and her boyfriend Bob, who is played by Leif Garrett, who was a very big musician, I think in the 80s. He was pretty much drinking, and she didn't want to be around him, so they sort of, walk off and start sitting there by themselves. Dallas sort of gets on Cherry a little bit and starts giving her a hard time, and Johnny sticks up for him. And when Dallas ends up leaving, Cherry ends up having a conversation with Ponyboy and Johnny. You can tell that Ponyboy's really shy. He doesn't get a chance to talk to girls that much. And he's kind of ashamed of his name, and, because it's so different, and he's trying to have a good impression. But Cherry immediately, you can tell she's a really nice girl. She's not like the other Socs who look down on greasers, and they end up, just having a good conversation. And as they are walking, as Ponyboy and Johnny are walking Cherry home, her boyfriend Bob comes back and pretty much threatens Ponyboy to stay away from his girlfriend and whatnot. So as the story goes on, Ponyboy and Johnny end up walking to a park, and while they're there, the Socs Bob and his friend Randy follow him there, where they end up getting into a fight, and Bob tries to drown Ponyboy. And that's when Johnny sort of comes in, pulls out his switchblade, and ends up killing Bob. And, the rest of the movie is basically them trying to not get caught by the police and find a place to hide, or otherwise Johnny will be going to jail for murder. That's as far as I want to go with the story, because I don't want to give anything away. Now, there's a lot more to this movie than just that. Now, my thoughts on it is, this movie, to me, is a movie that sort of represents, the way the title is, The Outsiders. It represents, the poor kids, the kids that don't feel like that they belong in society. They're always looked down upon, and they want to be a part of that society. They want to be like everyone else in some way. They want to feel like that they belong in the world. And I think that a lot of young teenagers can really relate to that, especially the Ponyboy. He really feels that. Not all the greasers feel like that. Some of the greasers, they could care less. But for Ponyboy, he really wants to belong. He really wants to be not popular, but he wants to have a lot more friends than what he does. Because pretty much all his only friends are the greasers, and they really have not much else. And he pretty much wants to, just have a lot of friends and just be okay with everybody. And he wants the socialists to stop beating him up and stop beating the greasers up, and he just wants to be respected. And I think that every teenager can relate to that. I think in every teenager's lives, they've always felt like that they don't belong in their school or at home or what have you. And Ponyboy is a great representation of that character. And as I've went on and learned more about the movie and the book, The Outsiders has really helped a lot of teenagers because they relate so much to Ponyboy and they want to feel like that they belong. And I think that this is a great movie and a great book for anybody to read who, who's a young adult and wants to, feels left out or feels lonely, because you can really relate to the characters in this movie a lot. The acting in this movie are really great. Like I said, the entire cast is made up of some of the biggest stars in the world right now, and they all play their characters off great. Especially Dallas, you can tell he's a very intense character. Matt Dillon, I think he plays a great Dallas in this movie, and you can really tell how he's really intense. He's really angry at the world and just hates the way that everything is. And what else? The music is really great, especially the theme of the movie called Stay Gold, which was played by Stevie Wonder. It's a really great song. And the title of the song, Stay Gold, is based off of a saying in the movie. At one point, when Johnny and Ponyboy are hiding out from the cops, they're looking up at the sky, and they're watching the sun slowly come up, and of how the sky looks gold. And Ponyboy talks a bit about it, and he doesn't really understand a short poem that he heard from Robert Frost, who had wrote it, and he called the poem "Nothing Gold Can Stay," and he never really understood what it meant. You find out later on what it means, and when that happens, it's a very, very emotional story. It's very emotional what that means, but yeah, like I said, this is a very, very emotional story, very, very heartwarming. There's a lot of, of course, intense moments, but there's also a lot of good heartfelt moments. And the story is mostly about brothers and about friends, and it's about staying together and, trying to accept people for who they are, even though, of course, that's not really going to happen, and that you should keep, whether somebody has a lot of money or not, you should still treat them the way that you feel like that you should be treated. And it's a really great story, a really great message. I can't say too much about this movie. Like, I can never say enough about it. I can go on and on about why I love this film, what I believe it represents, but I think for the time being I'm just going to keep it like that. I don't want to keep going on. But can I recommend The Outsiders? Absolutely. I recommend the movie and the book to everybody. If you have not seen this movie, I definitely recommend it. If you're looking for a great heartfelt story about belonging and about being with your friends and trying to be accepted into the world, then I don't think you can go wrong with The Outsiders. The movie or the book. I absolutely love it. This is the complete novel version, which has basically it's the entire novel made into a film. This is the 2-disc special edition. It is also available on Blu-ray. I have the complete novel version, and I also have the PG-rated version that was released on TV. You can get this DVD at Walmart for pretty cheap, but I really recommend the complete novel version. It tells the complete story. I always preferred this version over the TV version, but either way, I definitely recommend watching it any way you can. And I also have 2 copies of the book. The first one is this hardback copy, which if you're into reading, then this is definitely one book you definitely have to read. It's probably one of the most popular young adult novels of all time, and I highly recommend anyone to read this. I have this one, and I have this smaller version, paperback, which also has an interview with the author, S E Hinton. And as you can see, I have an Outsiders t-shirt, and last thing, this really cool Outsiders poster, which is the original artwork of the original poster of the film. Which looks really nice, and I love the tagline in the movie. They grew up on the outside of society. They weren't looking for a fight. They were looking to belong. And then there's all the cast members right there. You know, there's Derry, Cherry, Ponyboy, Johnny, and then there's Dallas, and then there's a list of all the characters. If you guys want to slow this down, feel free to. If you want to read who's all in the movie. There you go. So yeah, as you guys can tell, I'm a huge fan of The Outsiders. But anyway, guys, that is my review for The Outsiders. Like I said, if you have not seen the movie, and if you want to see a great, heartfelt movie, it's got a lot of good action, great acting, and you know, it's just a very, very powerful message. I highly, highly recommend checking out The Outsiders. And if you love reading, I also highly recommend checking out the book. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching. I've got one more I've got one more review to do on one of my other favorite family films, and I hope that will be up by at least Friday or maybe Saturday or Sunday. And then after that, once October starts, all my next videos will be nothing but horror related. So anyway, guys, thanks for watching. If you guys have seen The Outsiders, definitely let me know what you guys think about it as well. And I will see you all next time. Bye.